Okay, so we'll start.
Okay.
I'll give the introduction.
Yeah. Sure.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 17 of Zooming Conservation, where we focus on one of the most iconic and exclusive species in the world, the red pandas. On this special episode, we are honored to have Dr. Basavraj Holeachi as a guest expert. Dr. Basavraj, career and contribution to wildlife conservation make him the perfect guide as we get into the world of red pandas. Dr. Basavraj has accomplished uh, remarkable outcomings in his overall career of wildlife conservation. He secured All India second rank in JRF exam in life science category, as well as All India first rank in PhD exam in Indian Agricultural Research Institute in 2001, where he was also awarded gold medal for academic excellence. His communication skills earned him the Spirit of 1982 award from Indira Gandhi National Forest Academy in 2009, and his outstanding efforts in conservation were recognized with the Wildlife Conservation Award from Government of West Bengal in 2016. In his current role as director of Darjeeling Zoo, Dr. Holeachi has overseen major accomplishments, including Darjeeling Zoo achieving the highest ranking among all the zoo categories in 2022 in management effectiveness evaluation by Central Zoo Authority. His deep commitment to wildlife conservation spans both in situ and ex situ efforts, having worked in various prestigious roles at Jayaprada Wildlife Division, Boksa Tiger Reserve, Mahananda Wildlife Sanctuary, Sinchal Wildlife Sanctuary, and Singhalia National Park, among others. His expertise in forest protection, wildlife habitat management, human wildlife conflict resolution, and community development is exemplary. Additionally, he is leading a voice in linking ex situ and in situ conservation, focusing on conservation breeding and species augmentation program for red pandas and other threatened species. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Basavraj as we explore the conservation efforts surrounding one of the most beloved species, the red pandas. So, over to you.
Thank you very much. Uh, just I'll share the slide. No, I'm not able to share the slides. No, there's problem with sharing the slides.
What exactly are you seeing, and is there any pop-up?
Yeah, it's visible.
No, I am not able to see.
Share slide share.
So,
I'm not getting the option of sharing the slides.
okay. So, can you email me the presentation? I'll share it from you.
Okay, okay, fine.
Yes.
Yeah.
On apurvabandalcz@gmail.com.
Okay, now
Oh,
it's
yes, yes.
visible.
Now I can see. Yes, yes.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. First of all, I'd like to thank Central Zoo Authority for giving me this opportunity to talk on a magnificent and beautiful species, red panda. I'm also thankful to the entire my zoo team because of whose hard work and success we are able to achieve some success in red panda conservation, breeding, and augmentation program. So overall, I'd like to discuss more about this species over the next 1 hour. Um, so first, like introduction about our own zoo. It was started in 1958, and it is more than the zoo. Like it's a pioneer in conservation breeding of endangered Himalayan species. The park has three conservation breeding centers. The first one started way back in 1980s. Then there's a satellite zoo and conservation breeding for herbivores and pheasants, where we take up conservation breeding of endangered Himalayan herbivores and pheasants. And there's a conservation breeding center for in Topkedara, which is inside Sinchal Wildlife Sanctuary for red panda and snow leopard. So these all encompasses the zoo activities. So we are, as we know, Central Zoo Authority has the coordinating and participating zoos. So we are coordinating and participating zoo for 10 important endangered species of Himalayan region. And other than that, we are taking up conservation breeding of another 6 species, 3 herbivores and 3 pheasants. So these are our 2 conservation breeding centers. The top one is the Red Panda and Snow Leopard Conservation Center at Tupkedara. The another one is the area we were at Dawhill, Karsham, where we take up conservation breeding of herbivores and pheasants. And so now looking at more of the species red panda. So the kingdom Animalia, it comes under the family Alluridae, genus Alluris, and there are 2 species, Fulgens and Steiny. So we have to note that there are only 2 species in the entire family. That's what make it extremely important in terms of evolution and conservation. There are no other species other than 2 in the entire family of Alluridae. So in evolution, if you look at red panda over evolution, the fossil evidence is very scarce, but it suggests close tie to raccoons, and molecular studies also support its relationship with weasels and skunks. So nomenclature was done by Hardwick and Cuvier, and its scientific name, Alurus fulgens, it means shining or fire-colored cat, or it's also called firefox. And recent findings by Hu et al indicate that genetic evidence reveals 2 separate red panda species. Earlier, Steiny and Fulgens were considered 2 subspecies. Now they are 2 independent species. So this is the work from Rotterdam Zoo. So they have done extensive molecular genome mapping and mitochondrial genome sequencing, and they have distinctly found that there are 2 distinct species, Fulgens and Steiny, which are separated by Brahmaputra River. So the west of it is Fulgens, and the North China and Myanmar region is Steiny. And if you look at the evolution, this is also recent study done through molecular sequencing and all. So these 2 species separated way back more than 2000 2 lakh years ago, and over the years, like then there are became 2 distinct species. And also, like, you can just point out in the down, so there is a separate region in Nepal, like where these individuals are extremely separated. There's not much interaction with the other species. So there we can see that population is coming as a separate a population in terms of the molecular genetic structure. So this means that, like, once the few individuals get separated, this will get reflected in their molecular or genetic composition. And same thing is reflected with the Steiny and Fulgens which are present in the juice. There are over 450 individuals in all over the world, red panda individual Fulgens. So there also, like, we are seeing the same kind of pattern. And so these are the morphological features. How do we separate them based on head, body, and tail? Uh, this is how we separate identify one individual from others. So then there is a clear, detailed profiling of each individual through which we can morphologically identify each individual. So then there's a difference between Fulgens and Steiny, not very much, but with respect to physical appearances. And again, genetic variation is low in case of Fulgens, and it is quite high in case of Steiny. And 2 distinct species means they're the smaller population per species. So this has a consequence that being reducing the genetic diversity among the individuals. So that will hinder their adaptation to environmental changes. Then global distribution, if you see, like even though there's a large scale distribution, this distribution is not uniform. It is just disjunct and non-continuous, and these individuals are there in patches. So in Nepal, there are 317 to 582 individuals which are fragmented into 11 subpopulation, and there is mortality due to disturbance, then threat of poaching. And Bhutan, they are found in 13 districts with around 300 individuals, and Myanmar, there's a remote population which suggests the presence of red pandas. And China, the Steiny population, it is found in Sichuan and Yunnan region and Tibet province. So there are 3,000 to 7,000 individuals. And when it comes to distribution in India, we have a red panda population, good number of population in Sikkim, Kanchenjunga National Park, Singbar Rodent Sanctuary, Pangoleka, Kyangsong Alpine Wildlife Sanctuary, Rhododendron Sanctuary. These are there. We have the presence of 225 to 370 individuals in over 650 square kilometer area. In West Bengal, we have in only two protected areas, where there are 30 individuals and 32 individuals, which is quite low compared to looking at the landscape. And Arunachal Pradesh, in Tawang district, the sightings are there, and it is presumed that it has the highest population, but still no census done. So then there is a potential habitats in Meghalaya Plateau, Nokrek National Park, Balkaram National Park. So these are the where these individuals are distributed. Again, it's not a continuous population; it's a fragmented and isolated populations. Then looking at the habitat and ecology of red pandas, it is endemic to eastern Himalayan broadleaf and coniferous forests, and typically found in altitude of 2,500 to 4,000 meters above sea level. And there are occasion sightings below that also during summer region. And it favors for canopy of 30 to 80%, and prefers slope, a gentle slope, which is north facing, so that like for the it gives a cooler climate. And it has a my prefers microhabitats rich in fallen logs, tree trunks, which it used for nesting and foraging. And in China, red pandas were sometimes preferred to steeper and south facing slopes. It is possibly due to sympatry with giant pandas. That's a important observation. And with respect to biology and maternal behavior, it has litter size of 1 to 2 cubs and occasionally 3, 4 also. Then it reaches sexual maturity in 18 months. They are mostly solitary. They pair during breeding season. Otherwise, mostly they prefer to stay solitary. They are arboreal. They prefer high canopy and crepuscular because they are more active in early morning and late evenings. And gestation period is 114 to 145 days. And newborn babies are grayish in color, and they develop a reddish color after 3 months. And cubs under mother care are present till 18 months, wherein mother teaches all the survival and life lessons. You can see in the photographs how mother is teaching her cub how to climb the tree. And some of the features, like it has a stomach and digestive system which is similar to carnivore. So it has a simple and short intestine, and it cannot properly digest bamboo, and because of that it gets very little nutrition. So we will be seeing them eating extensively, whole day they are eating, so that they will get the required nutrition. And its diet composes mainly of maling bamboo, small bird eggs, wild berries, small insects. So this is the composition of their feed. And it relishes on tender leaves of maling bamboo, and flowers and fruits of actinidae, which is a climber. And they eat tender leaves of uh, Sclephera impressa, a broadleaf bushy tree, and it relishes on the fruits of tenga, osmanthus, and it descends down to the ground to hunt for food after the sun has risen. And the ecological importance of red pandas, they are the only species, as I was telling, in their family. So they are the living relic of the past. So this is a species which needs to be extremely protected at all costs. And they are crucial part of world's natural heritage and global biodiversity. And these are the indicator species, like red pandas thrive in one of the finest habitats. So this is an indicator that it's considered an indicator species for health of eastern Himalayan broadleaf and conifer forests. And their presence reflect healthy, balanced ecosystem, and which is suitable for other species and also for the plant diversity. And it plays an important role in maintaining bamboo ecosystem, because since they are extensively dependent on bamboo ecosystem, they usually try help to regulate the bamboo forest. And by maintaining healthy bamboo population, they indirectly support other bamboo dependent species also. Some interesting facts about red panda: they have something called false thumb, which it uses to pull the bamboo for this one consumption. And it has fluffy tail, so you can understand, since it stays in canopy and moves in the canopy, it this fluffy tail helps to balance. And it's a vigorous bamboo eater, and it's an excellent climber. This is one of the species which can climb down a tree heads down, so which is indicates that it's a very good climber. And some of the threats, like why we are the red panda is one of the species facing severe threat. So its population has come down by 50% in last 3 generations, which is which makes it very important for protection and conservation. So some of the reasons are habitat loss, So you can see the extensive anthropogenic activities, development of village. These because of all this, the habitat is getting lost, and also many times because of cattle foraging into the forests or the habitat of red panda, they damage the bamboo forest. So because of that, also this habitat gets lost. And then there are feral dogs. Feral dogs are one of the major threats for red pandas because, as we say, they come down sometimes for hunting and all. So now presence of feral dogs, they become easy predators for the dogs. So which they get hunted down by dogs when they come down on the land. So these are and one of the big one of the severe threat is a fragmented habitat. The red pandas have a very small home range, so 1 or 2 square kilometers, and because of this, intermixing of population gets reduced in the fragmented habitats, thereby reducing their genetic diversity, which is leading to inbreeding depression. So that's why we are seeing all these fragmented populations and not getting interconnected between each other. Like loss of corridors is one of the important factors that is influencing, which is posing a threat to red panda population. Now come to the conservation. What all is happening for red panda conservation? So the major conservation should be happening in their natural habitat because that's where they belong and that's where they should be thriving. So in situ conservation, we have national parks, sanctuaries, biosphere reserves where the red pandas are conserved. So it's a Schedule 1 species as per Wildlife Protection Act, enjoying the highest protection, legal protection, and so it is strictly monitored and protected in the natural habitat, and habitat development works also taken up to provide suitable habitat, and then regular monitoring and census is done to monitor the population of red panda over period of time. Then ex situ conservation, off-site conservation is also very important with respect to red pandas. It's like in zoological parks. There are many zoos in India and the world which house red pandas. Then long-term captive breeding or conservation breeding. So Darjeeling Zoo is one of the important zoo in this field. So it's a over the period of time, we should not be thinking of just housing 1 or 2 individuals or for the short-term conservation project. So we should be aiming at a long-term conservation breeding plan. Then regular animal translocation and acquisition is required to enrich the genetic diversity. Then cryopreservation and biobanking, which is an emerging field, and Darjeeling Zoo has developed a biobanking facility also, wherein we are preserving the gametes, cells, tissues, DNA of all the red pandas that are present in our position or in the wild, so that they can act as an important resource for the future. Then importance of ex situ conservation. So like it's not, it's no way we can't be seeing the conservation into separate entities or disconnected entities like in situ and ex situ. Now it has to be complementary conservation, wherein one conservation plan can help others. In CZA, it is called one plan approach. And there are many instances where in situ conservation is not sufficient to halt the decline of species. In such cases, ex situ conservation comes to play. Then ex-situ conservation provide adequate gene pool for individuals that can be maintained using captive population for reintroduction in the wild. So this applies very well to red pandas. We are seeing where because of the fragmented populations or isolated populations, their genetic diversity and inbreeding is cropping in. Thereby, this reintroduction will be very useful in enhancing the gene pool of the red pandas in the natural habitat. Then XC2 helps in knowledge of biological and ecological parameters of the species. So many times, like in situ, because the where red pandas stay, they stay in the most remote areas, and even it's extremely difficult to cite them. Forget taking up research and all, it makes it even more difficult. In such cases, the knowledge that we generate in XC2 will become very useful, like breeding necessities, what are the feeding needs, how it behaves, what are the maternal behavior, habitat needs, what are the diseases that are cropping up. All this helps in their conservation in the natural habitat. And also it helps to develop strategies, protocols, intervention measures for in situ conservation. So ex situ conservation is also extremely important for conservation of certain species. Then conservation breeding, so it is It's not just a regular breeding of individuals. Many major important factors should be considered for conservation breeding program. So you have to maintain genetic variability. That is one of the foremost requirement for any conservation breeding program. Then we should be producing individuals to be released into the wild. There's no point in just multiplying few individuals from few parents. We may be having good number of individuals, but that won't be sufficient. That cannot be called as conservation breeding program because we are not maintaining the genetic variability in that captive population. Then it is helpful to mitigate species extinction if any such threat exists in their natural habitat. So the aim of conservation breeding program is to produce a viable population with maximum amount of genetic diversity retained. Then coming about the red panda conservation breeding program of Darjeeling Zoo. So it started, like at least conceptually, it started way back in 1980s and 90s, which started with 4 individuals from the wild origin. And in 1994, 2 cubs were born. And since then, the 80 births have been recorded in the Zoo and Conservation Breeding Center, which is one of the highest in any single facility. And in this year, we have 4 cubs born, which are doing very well. And in even augmentation program was conceived way back in 2003 here, and 2 female red pandas were released in Single Hill National Park, and they were tracked with collars, and even one of them had given birth to a cub. And again in 2011 and 12, an important development, conservation separate dedicated conservation breeding center at Topkedara was created in 5 hectare of area, so that to provide a undisturbed and natural area for their taking up their conservation breeding program. Presently, we have 19 individuals, 6 is to 9 is to 4, 4 are still unsaged. So this is the how our conservation breeding center at Topkedara look like aerial view. So you can appreciate that it is present in the pristine forest of Sinchal Wildlife Sanctuary, and there is hardly any disturbance. And this is very conducive for their survival and breeding. So this is the founder. So to have any conservation breeding program, we need to have a good founder population, which is highly diverse. So this is how our founder population was developed over the period of time. Then we have 13 enclosures in Zoo and Conservation Breeding Center. So we are providing extremely naturalistic enclosures so that they can be at home. So aerial walkways, weather considerations should be taken into consider this one. Substrate for lying and rolling, then scraping. Visual barriers should be provided to avoid disturbances, especially during critical breeding period. Then options for hanging, high raised platforms, feeding, all these have to be provided for to create a naturalistic enclosure. Then dietary requirements, variable feed items from different farms are included. And I can tell you the red panda is extremely sensitive to dietary changes. So any even reduction of diet feed by few days, it will get reflected in its weight. Then social enrichment is also important, even though they are solitary individuals. So these things have to be considered during the breeding and breeding period. And proper space should be given. So this is what, like how we are creating the enrichment. So providing proper space for climbing. So food is placed high up in the ladder. So the red pandas climb and get the feed. So this kind of enrichment, and these enrichments should be regularly changed to avoid monotony and make them keep them very active during all the period of time. Then population management, day-to-day record keeping for feeding, behavior, veterinary prescriptions, all these are to be done. Regular information on the captive stock is sent to CZA. Then updates are also sent to International Stud Bookkeeper to facilitate exchange programs. Then analysis of genetic viability of the stock is done at CCMB by analyzing blood and scat samples. So breeding pairs are decided based on genetic analysis and pedigree. And now we have come up with our own genetic lab also. So soon we will be can be doing some studies in our own facility. Then record is updated in genes, geological information management system, so that the information we get to know the information about all the individuals. Then coming to our important program, that is Red Panda Augmentation Program. So as per the IUCN, 50% population decline has happened in last 3 generations, which makes these individuals extremely critically endangered, then there is urgent intervention required to recover its population and maintain genetic diversity. As I said, this number alone is not important. Genetic diversity is important. Since these are fragmented population, overall the number could be sometimes could be we can see it in thousands. But if you look at the habitat, individual habitat, they are in few numbers. So that's what makes it very vulnerable to further decline in the population. Therefore, human interventions is very much important for red panda conservation. So this is our program. It's a collaborative program between Darjeeling Zoo and Wildlife Wing of West Bengal. So wherein we are taking conservation of breeding of red pandas and restocking the declining population in natural habitat, that is Singalila National Park and Nura Valley National Park. Then objective is to augment genetically and behaviorally competent individuals in the two PAs, mitigate the threats, and improve the natural habitat. This is also very important because like if the threats are not removed, then there's the even reintroduction also may not be helping much. So I can say that like especially in both the protected areas, the threats are reduced to the lowest because of very strong intervention. Then we are developing the expertise for rehabilitating captive red pandas in the wild and preparing detailed protocol for the future planned release, or these protocols can be used for rewilding and augmentation of other species also. It can act as a reference. Then if you look at the census of red pandas, there, as I said, in Singalila and Nura Valley in West Bengal, and the census is extremely difficult because of the terrain. The where red pandas are present are in a very remote and dense forest. So most of the time they're in canopy, and the weather is also not suitable. So direct sighting of red pandas becomes very difficult. So earlier there were attempts through direct sightings, some 26 and 32 red pandas were recorded. And now we are going for census through DNA analysis from scat samples, which is most reliable. And again, it depends on the kind of intensity of scat collection also that makes the results more reliable. So we are doing with help of Lacan's CCMB. In the last census in 2019, with 38 individuals and 32 individuals recorded in 2 PS. And also the same study was done with IZER also. They reported 40 individuals. So it's more or in that range of 40s. So this is how we have plotted the presence of red panda in Nura Valley and Singalila National Park, and their distribution is plotted. So even when we are taking up release programs, we are releasing in such individuals which are in the adjoining, like where the low intensity, their population density is low, so that such habitats can recover with respect to red panda population. Then a selection of red pandas is also very important. So we are doing the genetic profiling of the red pandas in scientific institutes, and also in consultation with red panda stud bookkeepers, which is Rotterdam Zoo in Netherlands. And then we are selecting those individuals which have high heterozygosity, so that like when they breed with the individuals in the wild, they contribute more to the population, the next population, with respect to the genetic diversity. So animals are selected based or released based on heterozygosity, genetic relatedness, probable inbreeding depression. All this is calculated before selecting and releasing the individuals. And we have collared the red pandas using one of the latest radio collar, litterback iridium collar. So because selection of collar is important, because the red panda weight is around 5 kgs. So we have to have a very light collar but very advanced collar, so that we can track them or detect their presence in the natural habitat. So it has advanced GPS scheduling. So even we can change the GPS scheduling here. Then remote scheduling via web services. It has very high frequency beacon with mortality function. So we can track these individuals through VHF collar, this one antennas in the wild. And there's a drop off device. When the time is over, this one collar drops off. And if there is a mortality, it gives a signal that animal has is no more. Then there's a feature of geofencing also. We can preset the GPS, and if the individual crosses that polygon, it gives the signal that it has jumped the geofence. So in this case, we have set India-Nepal border as a geofence. If any individuals go to Nepal, we get the signal that it has gone that side. And again, we have our collaborators through Red Panda Network based in Rotterdam Zoo. We are taking their help to track them in Nepal side, and it has battery life of around 70 weeks. So this is how we get signals. in the web page, and also on the field. It is we are tracking the individual through VHF antenna. Then before taking up any release program, so certain interventions are done for to know that whether they are behaviorally competent or not. So one of the biggest problem any animal in captivity faces is it is association with the feed. So feed is available in the right quantity at the right time, and there are people who are ready who are going to take care of the individuals. But that is not going to happen in once they go to the wild. So we have to make them ready. We are not training them, rather we have to detrain them or remove the whatever training they have attained themselves, or whatever the pattern they have developed themselves in the captive condition. So association feed is broken at zoo and further in the conservation breeding center, and further by reducing the this one feed and encouraging more of natural feed. So this is how we are making them acclimatize more to the natural feed. And then we have to induce a certain anti-predator and human associated threats, because in the captive condition or in zoo condition, animals see the keepers or that they're attended as some kind of benefactors, somebody who is protecting them, somebody who is giving them feed. You can see in the zoos, like whenever the keeper comes, the animals start showing certain signs of being happy, or like they want to be close with the keeper. But that is not desirable when in terms of, we are talking about rewilding and augmentation program. So in this case, what we are doing false entry. Keeper is going into the enclosure but without feed. So over the period of time, it starts psychologically, it creeps in that he is not associated with the feed, and we are giving feed in the hiding condition, so that we should not presume that it has been given by some human beings. And we are scaring the animal. So this is also important. They should have some sense of fear for any animal to be surviving in the wild, so that like they know any predator is there, they are scared and they escape. So that is important quality we should be inculcating. Then exposing them to presence of predators by way of masking the trees with urine and scat of leopard, and we are even exposing them to from a distance through dogs also, so that they know that this is also one of the predator which he is going to encounter in the field. Accordingly, we are collecting their we are recording their observations of their behavior. We have found whenever they are exposed to these kind of predators, their vigilance increases, they are more alert, and they try to go to the highest point. So the biggest secure this one protection measure for red pandas is it's a good climber. So whenever there is a threat, it goes to the highest point in a tree. So that is encouraged, that is required for the wild survival. And after once the individuals are ready, we are taking them into a soft release facility, which is present inside Singalila National Park in a place called Garibas, which is a 1.74-hectare soft release facility. You can see it is fenced. And there, and in the winter conditions, like this is it will flow snowfall. Even in that conditions, our researchers are full-time present, taking the observations and monitoring the animals. So we are developing similar facility in Yuravali National Park also, wherein we'll be taking further augmentation program. So this is extremely important because they have to get acclimatized to the natural wild before going into the before going into the wild. So here their behavior is monitored, how they are responding to the wild condition. Suppose if they are not coping up, maybe then we should be bringing them back into the back, because they won't be surviving or thriving in the natural habitats. So till now we have released 7 red pandas, and 3 of them have given birth. They have mated with the wild ones, and 5 births were also recorded, which is a big success for the augmentation program. And then we have already developed and submitted phase 2 of augmentation program. In this, we are taking up a long-term this one augmentation program spanning over 10 years, so that like there is sufficient time is required to restock a population in a natural habitat. So there could be mortality, then births are to be noted, and then these whatever released individuals, they have to be dispersed. They should get dispersed in the natural habitat. Then they should be interacting with the individuals in the wild, and they should become part of that population, which takes time. So that way, now we are planning. We are coming up with a long-term 10-year project to sufficiently augment the population in both the national parks of the state. So this is our team who are working in for the project, and we had the privilege of presence of Member Secretary CJ Day also during one of our release program. And this is the photographs of the 5 cubs that were born in the wild. Then we did various scientific studies uh, in the after the during the release and after the release program. So behavioral competence of selected red pandas were properly studied, and we could know how in different there is differences between the how the individuals also when they are exposed to different conditions. Then we recorded the different how the change in the diet is reflecting in their weight. That's also extremely important because we want to release a fit and healthy individuals. Just because we reduce the feed, and it may get reflected in their poor health. So, and such individuals are not suitable. So we should be very cautious in balancing this feed also. Suppose if the animal is not responding negatively to reduction in feed, then we should be taking the corrective measure, and we should be giving him a more time to acclimatize to the changed feed. So those things are need to be monitored regular basis. Then we also recorded behavioral changes of red pandas across different stages of augmentation, how they were behaving in captivity, how they were behaving in soft release facility, and in the wild. So these things are very important, like to track whether they are behaving, whether the program is going on as per the planned way, or whether they are suitably acclimatizing or adjusting to the natural habitat. So in this case, we saw increase in foraging over the in the from captivity to wild, which is extremely understandable because in the captivity the food is given in a easily, and in the wild they have to extensively forage to get the feed. And also we noted the habitat preference. We found that they prefer mean canopy of around 18 meters. So they, because this is where that bamboo shoots are available, the tip of bamboo shoots available, so which is easy for its consumption. Then also they preferred areas having good bamboo density. Then we also tracked, we calculated their home ranges. The mean home range was around 1 square kilometer, but it ranged from individual to individual. Then we noted the preferred trees for the red pandas, and the mean canopy that was desired by the red pandas. Now this data will help in planning our future plantation programs. So whenever the plantation is planned in the red panda areas, so the preference can be given to such plants which are preferred by red pandas. Then there are other important studies that we are taking up. This is the study on gut microbes or in captive and wild pandas. So the how the gut microbe is changing over during the captivity as well as in the wild. What kind of microbes are present in the gut, and all that is being studied through in CCMB labs. And also determination of diet of red pandas in wild through next genome sequencing. So why this is important? Even though there is extensive studies on the feed of red pandas, so it's more based on the scat studying now, because there are many items which the panda is consuming but may not be visible, or it may not be getting reflected in the scat through microbial examination. So then we are coming up with a plan using the advanced scientific techniques to understand even the traces of feed that the red panda has consumed. So this will be helpful in our planning our future augmentation program, so that we can be including those plants or insects or eggs in their rewilding process. Then we are taking another study with Wildlife Institute of India, assessing the genetic variation and reproductive hormone profiles, wherein we are profiling the hormones, reproductive and stress hormones, both in captivity in the wild during different seasons of the year, so that we'll get to know how their profile is. Because based on this, their reproductive success is also going to decide. So how what is the variation in the captivity and the wild? These will be very useful in the understanding this species in a better way. Then various SOPs are also being developed on rewilding, feed reduction, how to take the observations, how to provide security, and all these are also developed, which will be useful for the future augmentation programs. Then acquisition of red panda, again we should have sufficient genetic diversity in our captive population also. So we are in touch through global species management plan. We are in touch. We are in the stages. We're acquiring individuals from the other Jews also. So in this way, like we have a good understanding under the umbrella of global species management plan. And prophylatic measures are also extremely important as long since even though captivity many times like the individuals could be prone to various parasites diseases also. So we are doing regular stool test on in fact all the animals, not just not only red pandas, so know any presence of parasites. So major red panda parasites are trichuris and ascaris. So whenever if there is any say, need of intervention, that then we will be intervening. Then regular blood tests also are done for all the individuals, in fact, to know any abnormalities. And if infection or presence of parasites is of clinically important, then treatments are provided. Then we have come up with a publication and a report and handbook also on study on intestinal parasites and hematological and biochemical baseline parameters also. We have come up with a range also for red panda. So what is the ideal range for different blood parameters or biochemical parameters? So whenever we are doing blood study, so if any abnormality, we should be will be taking up the interventions. So these are some of the scientific publications that have been done. So one is identifying the potential habitats of red panda in Nuera Valley, which is completed. Since now we'll be taking up the augmentation in Nuera Valley. So this study is very important. Now it is it's giving a good understanding of the habitat preference of red pandas. So that accordingly we can be releasing the individuals in certain places. Then on rewilding and back to the wild programs, and then we even we have come up with the hematological parameters publication has been done. So all these, and there's some movies also which are made on this red panda augmentation program. Then this is the cryobank and biobank and cryopreservation facility that we have come up for preserving the gametes of individuals, preserving DNA, tissue, cell culture, everything. So that like this over the period of time, this will add to conservation breeding program in a using in a more scientific way. And these are the advanced equipments which we have developed in our veterinary unit for proper health monitoring of the individuals. So with this, I'd like to thank everyone for giving me opportunity for sharing some of our experiences, understanding about red panda with you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. It was very informative presentation. To participants, I will request if you have any questions to ask sir, you can unmute yourself or you can write your question in chat box so I can take it up. So till then, I'll take some questions.
Yeah.
So can you highlight some key challenges that you faced during the conservation breeding of red pandas? Like any particular aspect that you actually had to overcome?
There were certain challenges because like even pairing of individuals. So many times like we plan genetically diverse individuals, but there may not be success. That is one challenge. And also one of the biggest challenges with respect to monitoring, because you saw the terrain kind of terrain which is present. So for our researchers to continuously stay there and monitor the individuals, record all the parameters is extremely difficult. So even though like they have to travel in a very steep terrain, so to and many times the animal is there but it's not visible. It is in certain canopy that you can't take the record. So that is one challenge. And another is the collar we are using. It is a satellite based collar, but the canopy is so dense. Many times we get the signal after few days. So sometimes that purpose get defeated. We want like a real time data, so it won't happen because of the terrain and rain and so many factors. And many times when it goes to Nepal, so for several months now, also one of the individuals is staying full time in Nepal. So they're like, okay, we get known that it is present somewhere, but like what kind of observation we want to take, so that may not happen.
So with the collars, like you're saying, it is very high density of the canopy. Doesn't the collar get like hooked into some and get like? Is there any problem like that of collar getting?
No, no, collar like actually it's a very advanced collar, and even it's given a very good foam, so there won't be any. There's no problem of irritation or these things. We have tried here extensively. Even like whatever red pandas sometimes drops, we need sometimes we have to capture also. Suppose if the condition is not good. There also we are seeing, so there is no such visible impact on the neck,
Neck.
or whether it in terms of skin infection or removal of hairs and all that. So in that respect, the color is quite good. Only thing is getting the signal sometimes is a problem.
Naeem Akhtar sir is having question. What is the status of snow leopard breeding in Darjeeling Zoo nowadays?
I should say that recently we had birth of two individuals. So even it was shared by WASA also, World Association for Zoos and Aquarium. We have the highest captive population in the world. So it's going on well, extremely well. So even we have submitted the proposal for snow leopard augmentation also, but still it is under consideration because the challenges will be much difficult and different than what with respect to red pandas. So, but it is going on extremely well.
Okay, thank you, sir. So, and also with the local communities, what does the local community play role in the overall conservation breeding of pandas? Like in the
So the till now, whatever the releases we have done, actually there are not many villages in that area. So there is it's a tourist route. That much human presence is there, but still the people are extremely sensitive towards red pandas. So they are extremely supportive, and even Yora Valley also where we are planning. So they have very good attachment or reverence for the red pandas. So long back, maybe 50, 60 years ago, there were some problems for capturing or these things like that. But presently, it is very positive response from the people.
okay, sir. The Darjeeling Zoo has received highest ranking among all the zoos in management effectiveness evaluation. So, what are the key strategies that you had led to achieve this?
No, we don't know. Just like evaluation was done, only after the result we got to know that it has we have been ranked number one. So, but obviously, like there are some 40 parameters on which the Jews were evaluated. So we're happy that we are standing in a good position.
No, sir. All the conservation breeding programs are very successful in your zoo.
Yes, yes. So I could say that now, like even red panda, snow leopard are very well known. But other than that, like conservation breeding of herbivores and pheasants, which is also very much important.
Yeah. You have worked extensively on linking ex situ and in situ conservation efforts. Could you elaborate on how you have approached on this both aspects of wildlife conservation?
Yeah, as said in the beginning, like it has to be one plan approach. It's a complementary conservation. So, in like at least in future, I believe like ex-situ zoos and conservation breeding centers can play important role because we are in an era of climate change. So much disturbances are seen. So, like if you see the international reports, so many species are getting extinct or feeling threatened, or the habitat is getting fragmented or damaged. So in this respect, I believe like we should be doing such conservation breeding for many species and take up augmentation program wherever it is required.
Any more questions from participants? No, so we don't seem to have more questions. Uh, can we move to vote of thanks now?
Sure.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we come to the conclusion of this fascinating discussion on red panda conservation, I would like to extend a heartfelt thanks to Dr. Basavaraj for sharing his vast knowledge and deep insights with us today. To our audience, thank you for tuning in and supporting this critical conservation efforts of wildlife conservation. We continuously keep arranging these sessions on specific species to know more about how detailed the conservation efforts are going on in India. So do join in next time. Thank you.
Thank you.